you, Helen, for such a beautiful appreciation. I'm going to have to try not to start blubbing like Gwyneth Paltrow at the Oscars as I say my thank yous. Helen mentioned this precocious 9-year-old from Adelaide, and it was actually as a precocious 9-year-old from Adelaide that I first encountered Helen Garner and was seduced by her prose. My father took my brother and myself out of school for a day and took us to the Adelaide Writers' Week, where Helen read from a work in progress about a little girl called Poppy and her father. And I remember it was as if a babel fish was in my ear and I could suddenly understand. I'd been used to being surrounded by sort of adult literary mutterings, but even at that age I could sort of respond to the rhythmic vitality of her sentences and the absolute honesty of what she had to say. And that book, of course, was subsequently published as The Children's Spark, which I think I reread so many times as an adolescent that I just about still know it by memory. So it's a great honour, Helen, to have you here today speaking of my book. Thank you very much. This is a little bit like an episode of This Is Your Life for me. I think everybody I've ever met just about is in this room, with the notable exception of my immediate family from Adelaide. But please don't read too much significance into that. I think they like the book. They said they liked the book. 2 of them are overseas at the moment. Another one is very pregnant, and another one tonight has the premiere of a movie that's based on one of his short stories. So I'll let you work out which one is which. But I do feel absolutely delighted to have so many people here from so many different parts of my life. I see people from the trio and a wonderful supporting crowd, and from my mother's group, from my book club, my beloved students, my colleagues, my dear friends, and some very special visitors from Adelaide also. They include Gabriella Smart and Deborah Andriacchio, both who feature in the book in cameo roles, and of course Eleanor and Isaac Sivan. Really delighted to have them both here with me today. Also my dear friend Katrina Germain surprised me with their presence, so it's a thrill to have you all here. Thank you. I think one of the privileges of being a musician, and I don't imagine this is unique to musicians, but it's certainly a very large part of it, is the existence in your life of these mentor figures. And my life has really been blessed with mentors. This book predates my relationship with Ronald Farron Price, who's been a very inspiring person for me in recent years, and also my acquaintanceship with Stephen McIntyre, who's been a really lovely avuncular figure living next door and giving me much advice about the industry. But as you know, what it does dwell on is a person who's been an absolutely incandescent presence in my life, a beacon since childhood, and that of course is Eleanor Sivan, without whom I can confidently say I would not be a pianist. The book is called Piano Lessons, but the lessons in the book extend, I think, well beyond the piano and certainly I'd hope to other artistic pursuits, but also to life at large. I sort of think of the book more as a book of life lessons, and these are lessons that were imparted to me by Eleonora and by her teaching and her example, and also by immersion in the worlds of these great composers. And the lessons that I'm speaking about are lessons of joy, of humility, of wonder, of love, of generosity, and certainly of gratitude. And it's gratitude that I felt overwhelmingly, really, as I was writing this book and also here tonight. In fact, I prepared a page of acknowledgements that sort of threatened to become a second book. And then I started to wonder whether perhaps there was something a little immodest about that somehow, if I was saying that this book is such a magnificent epic that it required a village to raise it. And I was reminded actually of a colleague of mine who got up after winning a competition and said, "I'd like to thank 2 women, my mother and my teacher, for making me the amazing person I am today." So without making any such claims for myself or for my book, I would like to say thank you to a few more people here, besides, of course, Eleonora. One is Damien Powell for providing such a terrific environment for me to live in, for us to live in here at Janet Clark Hall, and the vision of setting up the Artist in Residence program. And I hope you will be happy with this as one result of that program. And Ian Morrison for supporting that program also. Also to Donna Davies at Janet Clark Hall for her support, and for all my friends here, students and fellow members of the Senior Common Room alike. Now, it's not entirely coincidental that JCH has this connection with Black Ink, because it was actually here a few years ago that I first met Chris Fike, just in the passage around the corner there. And over the course of a very short conversation, I think I managed to make about 50 faux pas. A spectacular number at any rate, and I think a personal record. But nonetheless, he forgave me sufficiently to encourage me to write for the monthly. And then a couple of years ago on my birthday, I received an email from him saying, would you like to write a book, a memoir? And I think he might even have said, maybe called Piano Lessons. So I can't even take credit for the idea of this book. And originally I thought, a memoir, a memoir, how presumptuous, I'm just starting out in my career, I can't really do that. But as I thought about it a little, it occurred to me that it would be a great way for me to clarify some of my own thoughts about music and the piano and its role in my life, also my relationship with Eleonora, and also it offered me a wonderful opportunity of honouring Eleonora and of disseminating some of her teaching. So I said to Chris, I will need deadlines, and he said, you have to supply me with a chapter every month. And I did that for a little while, and then my other vocations got in the way, which are playing the piano and tending to email. And I soon found that I was coming up with many excuses along the lines of the dog ate my homework. I was in a car accident with my trio and I broke my back. And then even worse, I'm about to have a baby. But Chris was wonderfully patient, and only at the beginning of this year he said, no, you really have to finish that. So I parked myself in the pastoral care room upstairs for a couple of hours every afternoon until my phone rang, and there was Nicholas on the other side, and behind him a baby screaming blue murder, and he said, you're needed, and that chapter would hastily come to an end. I'd also like to thank my dear friend Claire Forster, who is a former housemate of mine, who then morphed into a literary agent, and then even more blessedly morphed into my literary agent, and has been a wonderfully shrewd as well as graceful guide for me through this industry. There are two other gentlemen I'd like to thank. One of them has been forcibly removed from this room because of heckling, and that of course is my son Reuben Purcell. So he's been wonderfully patient with his mummy, traipsing around the country and writing and doing many other things, and has generally maintained a terrific cheer about it. But I'd especially like to thank his father, Nicholas Purcell, who read every word of this book, I think, about 100 times, and many other words that are no longer in this book, and gave me a lot of wise counsel about the book, about the content of the book, about dealing with my anxieties pre-publication, and cooked meals for me, and raised my son with the help of two of his remarkable relatives, Mary and Alberta, and has just been is really my secret collaborator in all things, and I don't think I would have made it to the end of this book without him. So before I really do turn into a sobbing Gwyneth Paltrow, I might turn to someone a little bit more eloquent, and that's Chopin. And that's the Chopin Nocturne number 8. To my mind, this piece is the secret soundtrack of this book. And in the book, I play it in a moment of great duress when Eleanor is in hospital and unwell. And at such a moment, 6 years ago now, I could scarcely have imagined a moment such as this, with her restored to us and with so many loved ones and friends in this room, and with my baby upstairs and a new book out. So I really feel that my that my life is very rich at this moment, and I'm very, very grateful. Now, Eleanor is actually going to say a few words after I've played, but I'd like to quote her first, and this is what she said about the Chopin Nocturne. I can change my interpretation 100 times, depends on mood of day, can be hopeful like this, can be nostalgic, can be wise, can be more sustained like this, can have more space here or suddenly more light, more freedom, younger even. Tonight I'd like to play it to you all as a thanksgiving for Eleonora, for Reuben, for Nicholas, and for all of you for your support. Thank you.